Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first episode of the series Chess Run on this channel. Now, many YouTubers call this slow run, others call it fast run, depending on the format. Doesn't really matter what we call it. What we will be doing basically is we will be playing a bunch of chess games in rapid format, so 10 minutes or 15 minutes with no increment, and trying to climb the ELO ladder, starting from 300 and hopefully ending somewhere above 2000. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start the first game. So as you can see, my ELO is 306, my opponent is 294. On this level, I would just play simple chess. I would follow the rules that everybody or every chess player basically knows. I just pushed a pawn, trying to develop and place a figure in the center. My opponent responded with knight f6, attacking the pawn. What I can do, of course, I could always push, attack the pawn, but I'm gonna stick to the rules, which is basically don't touch your figure twice in the opening. Try to develop as many pieces as possible. And this is exactly what I'm doing here. Okay, my opponent did the same thing, basically placed a pawn in the center. I would like to attack this pawn now. I've just activated a knight and attacked a pawn at the same time. So this move is interesting. It's not wrong per se, but what I don't like about moves like this is that now this bishop is blocked. And it's kind of passive. I was expecting something like knight c6 maybe, because it protects the pawn and develops a piece. So basically mirroring what we've done. My opponent decided not to do that. I'm just going to continue my development. I'll develop the bishop, and maybe on the next move I'll castle. Of course, my opponent is going to do the same thing. I'm going to castle, play it simple. My opponent is probably going to castle as well. And before my opponent gets a chance to develop the bishop and pin this knight, which can be pretty annoying, I'm just going to push a second pawn into the center and try to start activating my pieces, or fully activating the pieces, and hopefully getting the bishop out of the way very soon. This move is interesting. It's activating a piece, so same logic, and also putting some pressure on this pawn. You could always exchange, but whenever you play a move, this is something that I tend to say quite often, and I end up making the same mistake in some cases. I play some impulsive moves, and after I play it, I ask myself, why did I do this? Long term, I see no reason for this move. It has no vision behind it. So capturing here, if my opponent captures with the knight, I would capture back. They would capture with the pawn. Maybe I could exchange queens, but I would like to keep the pieces on the board. And if I play bishop e3, now my opponent might pin. So what do I do in this case? I'm just gonna push the pawn, and by doing that, I release this tension, but at the same time, I lock the center. And I understand that my bishop is now not doing much. I was hoping my bishop would do something here on f7 on the king side. I'll have to find another way to use this bishop, I guess, but we'll get to that later. So this move is not the best move, apparently, or obviously, for many reasons. This knight has nothing to, I mean, it's not doing anything here. And yeah, I could just harass the knight, kick it away, or I could play something else. It doesn't really matter. I would like to do this because this knight is now running out of space. The knight has to go back somewhere. Of course, it can't go back to c6 because we attacked it initially. This is the only square to retreat. I would just capture it. Now you might ask me, why did I just capture a knight instead of developing my bishop? This is another interesting idea in chess. One of the concepts that as you develop as a chess player, you start grasping better and better. It's the pawn structure. These pawns, or pawns on the board, we haven't exchanged any pawns, so it's the position is quite symmetrical. By doing that, I created what we know as the double pawns. These can become a liability eventually, and I might just go for it immediately and put some pressure on this pawn. This bishop cannot move away. Maybe bishop could be played to b7, but it doesn't have a future because this diagonal is blocked. If it leaves this diagonal, I could just capture. Now, of course, my opponent decided to push the pawn 2 steps and forgot that I could do what we say, or what we call en passant. It's a chess rule that basically says if you have a pawn next to your opponent's pawn and they push 2 squares, this pawn technically or theoretically was on this square for a split of a second, and you're allowed to capture it. And you can only do it once they push the pawn. If I've played another move and I wanted to eventually capture and change my mind, it's too late. I have to do it on the same move. Of course, my opponent is a little bit confused. I would understand that since I'm playing at 294. Now, this move doesn't really achieve anything at all, for many reasons, of course. One of them, pushing this pawn, left this one targeted. I could just capture it. I could capture first and then capture here. This move I like more because it allows me to simplify, first of all, and second of all, now I have my knight in the center, and whenever you're up material, you would like to exchange. To simplify, because if more pieces are off the board, your advantage will be more and more significant, and that's what we're trying to do here. This move is not bad, I would say. I could always push and protect, and I think this is what I'm gonna do. My opponent might try to pin my knight. I would like to keep my knight in the center. Whenever you get the chance to place a piece in the center, you go ahead and do that. This knight is what we call an octopus because it can target so many squares at the same time, 8 squares, and this is basically not a knight, it's an octopus because it has so like a lot of reach, or long range, let's say. This move also, I'm sometimes, and this is a typical mistake, like yeah, my opponent, I think, realized their mistake. They're down 2 pawns, as you can see, and they're not going for counterplay. I don't see any reason to play such a move. Maybe you're trying to do something here, but this pawn is protected, and as I said, this move is not doing much really. I will just now pin the knight, put more pressure. Of course, my opponent could capture, and if I capture, they have the in-between move, which is capturing my queen with a check. I'm not going to do that. If they capture here, I will just capture back. Now, since my opponent doesn't want to exchange, which is also understandable, I could just do it myself. Now, the only reason I'm doing it is there's not a lot of, let's say, deep thoughts behind it, or like not a lot of strategy or long-term vision. I'm just gonna capture. They have to capture with the bishop, of course, not with the rook, because if they capture with the queen, sorry, if they capture with the queen, I'll just capture with the rook. What I can do now is fork. rooks. This only works because this bishop is no longer protecting the d7 square. So now fork. Of course, my opponent could play this move. I hope, or I don't know, I assume they're not going to see it. If they do, I guess I'd be in a little bit of trouble. Still fine, we're not losing anything. I could just retreat with my queen. And now this is under attack, and this is under attack, and this is under attack. Now there are a lot of things that are under attack. Of course, my opponent could capture here. I would have to capture, oops, with a check. My opponent did not see it. I'm not playing the best game, to be honest. But I'll just go ahead and capture the bishop. And now this rook could potentially target the queen if I find some tactics. I didn't capture here with a check because, because the queen could have just captured back and there's nothing. I would release this tension. So my opponent wants to wrap up the game pretty fast, I would say. And they just went for an exchange, or they gave me the queen for some reason. It's a little bit frustrating, I get it. When you don't have a nice position, it's also not easy to find moves. And now, this is one of the most common checkmate patterns. I mean, it's not a checkmate yet, but I could manifest it. I could see it already. These 3 pawns are restricting the king's movement. What I could just do is I would just go slide with my rook, offering an exchange. Now it's not a checkmate yet because they have this last resort, which is bishop f8 to block the check. If there was no bishop, it's checkmate. And of course, since I know this pattern and I've seen it many, many times, I was a victim of it in many games. I blundered the game, I threw it away, and I just got checkmated in the most ridiculous way. But since I've seen this pattern many times, I could tell that they have no choice but to block. Once they do, I would just play my bishop, stacking up the pressure. And it's just a question of time before I deliver the checkmate. I hope my opponent sees bishop f8 and it doesn't resign. No, they did resign. Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't the most interesting game, I would say, but just to show you what I was talking about, my opponent could have just blocked. I would have played this, and now I'm threatening checkmate. The bishop cannot capture mine, of course, because this is a pin. They could capture with the rook. It doesn't make any sense because this is checkmate in few moves. If they push, I just take. They go check, and then checkmate. But the line that I saw was if I play this and they try to retreat one way or another, of course g6 wouldn't work because I'll just capture and on the next move I'll checkmate. Assuming that they play, I don't know, whatever. But so yeah, this is something that I think it's obviously over, aside from the fact that I have an extra queen, but this doesn't look pretty for black. Okay, I guess we could move to game 2. You can see that my opponent is a little bit stronger. Maybe we would have a more interesting game. I'm just gonna follow the same logic, same rules. I'm gonna just try to place 2 pawns, or 1 at least, in the center, and then start activating my pieces. Why do I push this pawn? It's because I want to clear the path for my bishop, for my knights. Of course, my knights are already activated, what I'm saying. But if I push the second pawn, then I can just move my bishops freely. I'm not going to push the pawn right now because it would lead to something that I would like to explain later. It's the Scotch opening or Scotch gambit, depending on how you play it. I'm just going to keep it simple. I'm just going to mix things up. Last time I played the knight. This time I'm just going to play the bishop. And of course, you've probably heard about some chess openings or chess defenses or theories for the opening. This is one of them. I mean, the order changes the concept basically. What I was trying to play was or is the bishop's opening. My opponent is not letting me. I think they think I'm gonna fall for this scholar's mate. I think they wanna play the bishop on the next move and checkmate me. And now if I play my knight attacking the queen, he or she or they can just capture my pawn with a check. It's pretty bad for me. So first I'm just gonna play simple chess. I'm gonna defend my pawn with a knight. And now if they attack me, I could just block this diagonal and kick the queen away, start developing. Of course, this is not a good move because I would just attack the queen. If the queen slides here, I have this nice tactic that I will show you shortly if this happens. Of course, my opponent is wasting a lot of time playing many moves with the queen, and this is one of the things that I've explained before. In the previous game, I said try not to move your pieces too many times, or if you want to be really strict about it, move your piece once. So develop it, move on to the next piece, castle, and so on. Now, since my opponent played this, now I could play this move because now not only that I have two pawns in the center, I'm attacking the queen, which brings us to the next concept in chess. It's called winning a tempo. So basically, if the queen was not there, I would have just, my opponent would have had some time to react to my push of the pawn in the center. But since I pushed the pawn and attacked the queen at the same time, my opponent was supposed to do something about that. They didn't. They blundered the queen. I guess this is a little bit common on that level. And it's not easy to spot from the first look, I guess. But yeah, I could just, and I will go ahead and capture the queen and say GG and move on to the next game. My opponent doesn't want to. Now I could, of course, capture here. It's for free. And this is something you could do. Um, Now the question is, or this is when you start understanding chess better, is when you realize that it's not only about winning material. In that case, I mean, the game is over, but for me, my intuition tells me for some reason to play something else because this knight is not going anywhere. I could just play queen e2 and maybe put more pressure and hopefully capture with a knight and then discover, check, whatever. My opponent, of course, has f5. In case I play queen e2, they would play f5, protecting it. As I said, I think of the activity of the queen, and I would like to deliver a checkmate as soon as possible and make use of this queen that I've just won. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. If my opponent pushes this pawn, of course, I just capture. It's for free. If they push f5, I don't care. I don't need the knight. I mean, I already have a queen. I will just capture. Once they capture, I will capture with the queen, and now it's check. And of course, it doesn't look very pretty for black. Now I could castle, and it's on the next move. I'm gonna bring my rook. I could have moved my king away, but I just think castling is such a cool move. I wouldn't miss an opportunity to play it. Um, yeah, I'm just gonna add on the pressure, or even better, I'm first gonna kick away the knight because this knight is protecting the bishop. Sorry. And once I do that, the knight has to leave. I'll play rook e1, threatening a checkmate, and I don't think it can be stopped. So now I have two pieces and checkmate. So again, I mean, this is one of the things almost everyone talks about or knows and has heard before many times. The aim of chess is to deliver a checkmate. It's not to win a pawn, a knight, a rook, whatever. As long as you deliver a checkmate, it doesn't matter. And this is why some chess players, like aggressive chess players like Tal, they always ended up surprising their opponents or crushing them in a very fashionable way. It's because they give up all the pieces and they keep only the pieces necessary to deliver a checkmate. But anyways, second win in a row, GG. Let's move on to the third one, perhaps before we wrap up for today. Okay, and now I'll follow the same logic. It doesn't matter if I'm playing with white or with black. I'll just place a pawn in the center and make some luft for the bishop. Of course, my opponent plays this move. I would have expected them to play knight f3 to attack the knight. This doesn't change anything really. I would play the same move. And this is something you could also do, like mirroring works to an extent, but I wouldn't take it too far. Now I think my opponent played this because they've probably seen something, like some YouTube video, and they would like to push f4. That's why the knight didn't land here, because it would prevent this pawn from being pushed, stand in the way. Again, I don't really know what they're doing. This move doesn't make a lot of sense to me, because this bishop is now blocked, and white would be forced to move the knight out of the way to develop the bishop, or maybe develop the bishop this way. I don't know, but I'll just do whatever I do, or what I always do, which is developing my pieces. And on the next move, perhaps the knight, if my opponent doesn't do anything crazy. My opponent already did something crazy, very suicidal, I would say. Gave me a pawn for free. How do I know that it's for free? And I could immediately do it without even having much thought or much look at it. It's because this pawn is protected by 2 pieces, and I'm attacking with 3 pieces. And this is one of the rules in chess. If the number of pieces attacking is more than the number of pieces defending, then you could just safely capture. Now my opponent is doing some dark magic here or something. I don't know what this is. I could just capture. It doesn't. It's a free pawn. What they think I'm gonna do, or they think it's a little bit smart or whatever, is they wanted me to capture back if they capture on d4, and then they capture with the queen, and they have some compensation for the pawn they lost, or the 2 pawns actually they lost. But if they take on d4, I'll just capture, and it's a check. And not only a check, it's also a fork. Now, why did I play this move? And I didn't even think about it. I just basically wanted to put more pressure on this knight by bringing the queen. Of course, my opponent pushed and kicked my bishop away, meaning my queen cannot land on a5. Now, sorry. Now, if they capture, I could capture with a pawn. Doesn't matter which pawn for now, but I'm gonna take with this pawn, because this is another, you might call it one of the golden rules in chess. You always capture towards the center. This pawn is already in the center. We would like to keep it this way. This pawn is kind of like on the sideway, so we bring it. And my idea was to create this nice little pawn chain, and these 2 pawns are supporting each other. And not only that, this one is attacking this knight. This knight cannot move out of the way because it's pinned. And of course, this might not have been the best move in this particular moment, but knowing that my opponent is gonna go for something like this, I just took a wild guess, let's say. And otherwise I would have went for something more, maybe more slow or more steady. But it's also an interesting thing that I've done here. And it's not only that I was hoping for my opponent to capture so that I could capture and create this chain. It's also because I wanted to solidify my position. And this knight is, as I said, it's in the center. And once we have a knight in the center, we would like to keep it this way. We reinforce this knight with 2 pawns, having 2 pillars supporting this knight to make sure it's not gonna go anywhere. And if it does, then we have something else placing it. Of course, this move, now it creates a double pin, because this knight, if it moves out of the way, I could just capture the queen. And if they move the queen out of the way, it's still pinned. They didn't do anything. I'm just gonna wait and play this move, activate, maybe castle, take my time, maybe capture here even, and use this knight to attack on c3. And now just check.
They take with the king, I'll capture with a check. Again, if they advance here, I will capture on f2, and it's a fork, because now you have to visualize that the king is on d3. And I would say GG, unless my opponent wants to play further. Of course, this is another thing in chess, especially on that level. Every game is an opportunity to learn something, so never give up. Play on. I've blundered some games. I've thrown some games away when I was like up a rook or even a queen in one game. It's not nice to admit, but I've had it. And especially if you're playing someone much stronger than you and you're under stress, like you can't believe you're winning. Um, Last month I played the Berlin Championship for Blitz, and I ended up playing against an international master in the first game. He was like around 2,400 his ELO, and I don't know. I had this crazy attack because he castled and his king was not quite safe, and he had to give up his queen. And I just somehow manifested my blunders or throwing away the game, and um, I eventually did. So of course afterwards you think about it and like I had 20 moves that are winning. I've played none of them, and it's sad, but it is what it is in chess. Um, and we are human beings after all, so we're not machines, and we are bound to make mistakes, and it's completely normal, and it's a part of the process. So what I just wanted to say is that you play on, and you never give up because you don't know what could happen. I'm just gonna start chasing this king because it looks quite exposed. um, I don't know if there's a checkmate, to be honest. I haven't looked at it that much. I know that, okay, let's maybe do this. It's probably not the greatest move. I mean, I already see that I have a fork. I'm not gonna do any of that. I already have more than enough compensation or material. I'm just gonna bring this rook here to cut off the king. Oops. And on the next move, if I push, it's checkmate because this queen is slicing everything. Now it's not checkmate because this rook can capture, but technically the king is surrounded. It has nowhere to go. And now it's the most beautiful checkmate so far in this episode. Checkmate. Now we've already crossed 300. We're 433. I think that that would be it for today. Thanks for watching. I will try to do more of these episodes, or do them quite frequently to just kind of like accompany you with this like in this on this journey, and see how far we can take this. Hopefully we would reach 2100 or 2200. Let's see if we would manage to do that. For now, that would be it. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to follow. Have a nice one.